UFC Fight Night Magny versus Prates has just taken place, and this is my reaction to the card. So, there were 11 fights in total, 7 of those fights ended by finish. Why is the UFC offering me tickets to go to fucking Power Slap 10? What is that? Go away. Anyway, let's start off with the main event, Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates. I've got a couple of stats on screen here. I'm going to hold my hands up. I was wrong. If you can see, I think I uploaded to Shorts as well as TikTok. For some reason, I picked Neil Magny to beat Carlos Prates. And I was really confident in that prediction. I thought Neil Magny would have just exposed him in there, to be honest. Couple of reasons why. Number one being Neil Magny is the king exposer, gatekeeper in the UFC's welterweight division. If you look at the guy's resume, in terms of name quality on it, it actually is pretty stacked. I mean, the guy has beaten some elite guys on there. More elite level competition than what I thought Carlos Prates was personally before going into this matchup. I also thought that Carlos Prates was being a bit overhyped, to be honest. I mean, his best win was Li Jingliang, another guy who Neil Magny had also beaten. So I was kind of like, are people just getting behind this guy because of the fighting nerds hype and shit like that? I really thought people were just buying into the hype and he hadn't really proven anything. And this was definitely his toughest test to date in the UFC, without a doubt, was Neil Magny. But he passed that test with flying colours. I also thought Neil Magny would have done a good job in there with the takedowns. I was interested in seeing how Carlos Prates' takedown defense would have been and his get-ups. Didn't have to worry about that whatsoever. As you can see on screen, Neil Magny shot for 7 takedowns in the matchup and got 0, 0, 0, 0, no mass, no takedowns for Neil Magny. Which I didn't expect, really. Honestly, I thought Neil Magny was going to beat this guy. I thought he was going to beat Carlos Prates. I thought he was going to just out-experience the guy, show the levels in there, especially with the grappling. Now, in fairness, I did think, well, Magny is just coming off being KO'd, and Carlos Prates, for anything you want to say about the guy, is a big puncher. We've seen that. And I was worried about that. But I just thought his experience, the guys he's beaten, and Neil Magny has a tough fight style, seemingly, for some of these prospects coming up. Just wasn't the case. Prates showed in there he is the real deal. He stuffed all of Neil Magny's takedowns really effectively. He also turned one of Neil Magny's takedowns, would help if I could speak. He also turned one of Neil Magny's takedown attempts into him being able to take down Neil Magny. Now, he did disengage right away and let Magny back up, which obviously makes sense. Carlos Prates is a very dangerous striker in there. And it was just a typical Carlos Prates performance in there. The guy striking is just levels above some of these guys in the welterweight division. Neil Magny fell victim to that. He landed a couple of nice low kicks in there, which is obviously something Neil Magny just doesn't know how to defend. But it's the punching power of Carlos Prates. He landed, I think it was like a short elbow on Neil Magny, dropping him. And Neil Magny just never recovered from that, to be honest. His legs were all over the show. He was diving in for takedowns, doing the smart thing, showing his experience there, trying to keep himself in the fight by trying to waste time holding on to Carlos Prates' legs. It just wasn't enough. And the thing about Carlos Prates, which also makes him so dangerous in my opinion, is the fact that he doesn't rush anything. He knew Neil Magny was hurt and he wasn't rushing to put him out of there. The guy's very patient in there. And obviously the punching power, we've seen it on display. It kind of looked like at the start, I didn't really know what Carlos Prates hit him with. But when you slowed it down, it showed you. It kind of like hit him up here. It shows the guy's a big puncher. That's, what is it? Is that 4 knockouts this year? Carlos Prates has had a really good 2024. It now means he's ranked, and this is what I want to talk about. So if the UFC are planning to do Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Kamaru Usman at UFC 310, which is a fight that I really have no interest in, purely because Usman is on a 3-fight losing streak. Now, it's not looking as bad as we just seen what Hamzat done to Robert Whittaker, and Kamaru Usman arguably won that fight. Should have been a draw in my opinion. So there is that, but the 2 losses prior to Leon Edwards aren't looking great. Well, not anything to be ashamed of. Leon Edwards is still an elite level welterweight, but the 3 losses on the bounce, it's just not good for Kamaru Usman in my opinion. But if that is the way they're going to go for that fight, then That then means JDM, who was rumoured to be fighting Kamaru Usman at UFC 312, will be needing an opponent. Carlos Prates did call him out. That's the fight to make. Now, I know that would be a step down in competition for JDM, but even if he does beat Carlos Prates, who is probably one of the most hyped up fighters right now in the UFC's welterweight division, I think he deserves a title shot because he's undefeated currently in the UFC. I'm talking about JDM here. He's beaten elite guys like Gilbert Burns, for example. If he does take a step down in terms of the rankings against Carlos Prates, I think he should then still be in the run for fighting for the title after that if he does take this fight, in my opinion. Carlos Prates, JDM, if they're doing Usman Shavkat at UFC 310, is without a doubt the fight I want to see next. Now, Carlos Prates did prove me wrong in there. I think this guy will go far. I think he can beat a lot of guys in the welterweight division. I will be more interested in seeing how he will adapt and how his grappling will look against elite grapplers in the division, like Sean Brady, for example. How will he look in there against Carlos Prates, or how will Prates look in there against him with his grappling? I'd be interested in seeing. I do think he will go all the way in terms of climbing up the rankings, although I don't think he'll become champion. I think people are jumping the gun too soon. I mean, I've seen someone on Twitter saying Carlos Prates has given off prime Anderson Silva energy, and that doesn't make any sense considering Carlos Prates has just beat Neil Magny. So, like, how are we comparing that to a prime Anderson Silva? But anyway, each to their own. It was a really impressive win by Carlos Prates. A nice new name, hype train, a hyped up fighter in the UFC's welterweight rankings. Fair play to Neil Magny, though. I mean, he's just taken on Prates, Morales. He's just taken on Mike Malott as well. I mean, this guy's taken on Ian Gary before that. 4 up-and-coming prospects in the welterweight division. The guy takes them all on, respect to Neil Magny. What else I want to talk about? Gerald Meerschaert versus Renan de Ridder. Obviously, this was Renan de Ridder's UFC debut. Not a great performance, to be honest, to make for your debut performance, to make a big name statement. Obviously, you would be looking to finish in the first round or look a bit better in the fight, but Gerald Meerschaert is a tough fighter. He's been around the UFC for quite some time now. The guy seems to be a real issue for these prospects up and coming, unless you're Khamzat Chimaev. But Renan de Ridder done what he needed to do in getting a win. I don't know where he goes next. Maybe someone just low top 15 maybe. I don't know what the UFC are going to want to do. I mean, the guy's not young in his career by any means, and I'm sure they've paid him an awful lot of money to come over here. So maybe they're going to have to try and fastball him to the top. I don't know. Good win though. Gerald Meerschaert is an underrated fighter, and it was a good win for him. What else do I want to talk about in the card, really? Let's see. Damon Blackshear got a nice win in round 1. What else? Tricoli lost in round 1. Like, Tresean Gore beat him in round 1. But I'm trying to remember. Sharon Magomedov took him to what? What round? Was it the second round or third round? That's all I'm going to say. Charles Radke with another nice win in the first round, TKO over Matthew Semmelsberger. That's probably him going to the PFL. Probably. Overall, not a bad card. I would have liked to have seen Cody Garbrandt on the card. Obviously, we know what happened there. Guy had to pull out due to an injury. But the star of the show, Carlos Prates, ranked inside the division now, in the welterweight division. I want to see him, JDM, UFC 312, make it happen. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you again in the next one.